Good afternoon. We'd like to go ahead and get started with our commission meeting. If you'd stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item of business tonight is the presentation of the Carbon County Employee of the Month, and we'll turn the time over to Rose.
Commissioners, this month our Employee of the Month is Corey Jensen. Come on up, Corey. He really didn't want this to happen, but we're not going to let him go unnoticed because and I'm going to let Frank explain what he's done and why he was chosen as Employee of the Month, and it is really an awesome story. And I want to thank you, Corey, and thank him for all he does. Those guys really work hard. The whole department works. I mean, the amount of work you guys do is just unmeasurable, and I want to thank everyone personally because they really keep it together for us out there. So, thank you.
Corey? Thank you. So the story goes, it was Mother's Day weekend, and we had a group of kayakers going down the San Rafael that took gear. Didn't have guides, but took our gear, and they got into some trouble because of some high winds and some high waters and some inexperience, and they got into a lot of trouble. We had to call in search and rescue. They capsized the canoes, and we thought that we were going to lose about $8,000 to $10,000 worth of equipment. So Corey was able to, with the help of Emery County Search and Rescue, successfully retrieve all the participants, including most of their belongings, without any trouble. He called me right before we were going to dispatch the chopper and said, "We got him. Don't call off the helicopter." So, but you know, the care that he takes with the lives, and you know, this was on a Sunday afternoon, and you know, he knew they got into trouble, and he went down and tried to do everything he could to help. And then the next day, he and another employee decided to go down and see if they could retrieve any of our equipment. And I think he got everything back but a paddle and a life jacket.
Wow.
So he recovered 4 canoes. He recovered a backpack from a participant, $1,000 cash. Why you'd bring that on a river trip, I have no idea, but we got it back for him. So, you know, I felt like when this happened that, you know, that was above and beyond the call of duty, and really was able to save us a whole heartache of you know, insurance claims and everything like that. So that's why I nominated Corey as our Employee of the Month. So thank you. He's a good man. And I don't know if you guys know it or not, but Corey actually, he's a product of Carbon Rec. When he was about 10 or 12 years old, his mother and father would drive him down here from Murray, take kayaking and river running and everything like that. So he started out as a participant and now one of our best employees. So we're proud to have him.
Frank, if I might add just a couple more things. You know, you say he's a product of Carbon Rec, and that's more true than anything else, in the sense that as other employees of Carbon Rec have retired or are retiring currently, he is kind of our outdoor expert, or subject matter specialist in that area.
He knows that he can do anything. The kid can do anything. And he's adapted too, because when he started working, he didn't know anything about sports, and now he's running softball tournaments and helping with golf tournaments, and you know, so we got a great staff. I'm proud. Every one of my employees, in my mind, are the employees of the month, but this one, he goes a little above and beyond this month, so thanks.
On those days where he's running the river and stuff like that, maybe he should be paying us.
Well, I don't want to tell him that. We haven't told him that's part of the deal. It's coming. We're taking a portion of his retirement out and putting it towards a fund for us.
Gotcha.
He's great. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next item is a presentation of a check by Carbon County Recreation to the Carbon Cares for Kids for the Castle View Hospital Weight Loss 5K fundraiser. Frank?
Again, these lovely ladies are the reason that we did this fundraiser. They developed this program, and I'll let them talk about it a little more, but it hit home for us, and we wanted to help. So this Castle View Hospital was a portion of it. We also did a charity softball tournament that Brenda actually suggested that we do from, Brenda's from the fairgrounds. And we put together this charity softball tournament, and with the 5K we were able to raise after expenses $3,055 for the Carbon Caring for Kids program. So we'd like to present that check to you guys, and we would like you to take just a moment and talk about your program and explain a little bit more of what you do, and also coming up if people would like to donate. We're doing a kids talent competition in conjunction with the county fair, and the radio station KUSA has agreed to give 30% of the proceeds that they raise, or $50 of the $150 for every sponsor to the Carbon Caring for Kids. And these guys will be here to make donations, so we're trying to make this an annual thing, and I'm going to let them talk a little bit about their program. There's your check. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks.
I don't know if anybody here knows much about it, but in November we started the Carbon Caring for Kids. Randy Leonard is a school counselor, and on the way home from a Ragnar, we were talking about how kids struggle and how sometimes she goes home and takes food out of her cabinet, excuse me if I tear up a little bit, and sends it home with kids that don't have food. They would take turns sending kids home with bread and peanut butter and jelly, and I just thought, that's not okay. We need to help. Teachers were bringing food for kids, and so I called Marcy because she had said she wanted to help the community, and we got together, and my original idea was Thanksgiving. 5 days, some of these kids only have food at school. So, and then after that, Marcy said, we need to do this every weekend. These kids can't go Saturday and Sunday with not enough food. So we've continued to do it through her home. Thank goodness, 100% volunteer with money and volunteers and food donations, and we were able to do all the way until the end of school.
And like she said, it was just planned for Thanksgiving initially. But she called me, and I texted about 40 people on my phone and just said, we have an opportunity to help a bunch of kids in our area over Thanksgiving break. And here's the items that we need. And within 2 hours, we had everything that we needed for, I think, 40 kids for 5 days within 2 hours. And we had such excess information or excess stuff, and so many people wanting to just donate and to spend their time. So that's when I said, as long as people are donating, let's keep doing this. And it's been overwhelming, the amount of help the community has put into it. It's incredible. I have never had to beg for help. People are always coming to me. All these clubs, groups are coming to me and saying, how can we help? And we sign them up, and they pack the kits and deliver them to the schools, and the counselors give them to the kids, and it's all anonymous. So we don't know who the kids are. They just give us a number. The counselors give us a number of these children, and it ranges from kids that actually legitimately do not get any food on the weekend to kids and families that just need extra help. So there's a wide range of kids that we help, which is awesome. But as long as we get help from the community and awesome people and members of the community, we are going to keep doing this because it's we've heard so many great stories from so many different people. We had a story of a teacher tell us that his favorite day is Friday, and that's because he gets his kit on Friday. And this teacher told us that when he gets his kit, he runs as fast as he can to the counselor's office and runs it back to his teacher, and they open it up and do an inventory, just like our kids do on Halloween. And to us, that's what makes it worth it to us. It's a lot of time, but it makes it worth it when we get to see those results.
We can continue to support you guys and continue to help any way that we can. And if people want to continue to make donations, there's a Facebook page, and hopefully this gets you started for the school year.
It's huge. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Chairman, may I add something to this as well? Being on the Intergenerational Poverty Council to the IGP Commission, we're having a panel discussion tomorrow with the Lieutenant Governor at the Rural Summit in Cedar City. And I'm identifying 4 things here in the community that has helped people in poverty, in the cycle of poverty, and things that are helping them get out of it. And one of those 4 things is what you ladies are doing. And it's pretty amazing, because how can they focus on what they need in order to get out of this cycle of poverty if they can't even eat, if they can't even, if all their focus is based on the bare necessities of life. And you're helping them focus on those other things by providing these meals, and it's a wonderful thing. So just wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Our next item is a review and possible adoption of the Carbon County Resource Management Plan. I don't know, Commissioners, if you'd like to take a minute and give a little background, or if we want to turn some time to Todd right off.
If that's all right, I'd like to jump on that. I've been very much involved. Primarily, this has been Todd and Christian and Rex Sacco, who has recently retired. This has been a process over several months, and it's been a very thorough process where they've reached out to various members of the community, but they themselves have been going over this 20-year-old document to try to update it to what is relevant to today. And it's a living document, meaning going forward, it's something that they'll be able to edit on a 6-month or a year cycle. And what it talks about and discusses is the process of our natural resources here in Carbon County, how our agreements with citizens, our agreements with federal agencies, and how we cooperate with each other. And just to maybe dive into it a little further, I think it'd probably be most relevant for Todd to discuss some of the process, some of the changes, some of the updates, and what we want to begin with after 20 years of not making any official changes to it, what it looks like now and how we want to start.
And I think it's also important that we acknowledge that not only is the process good for Carbon County, but this was mandated by the state of Utah, that every county has a resource management plan, and they're due this month, and so we're trying to abide by that. Funding for this came from two sources. One, it was sent to the Community Impact Board so that there were funds drawn from there to pay for this process, and then also reimbursement funds available through the state of Utah itself. So yes, we needed to do it after a thorough update needed to be done, but it is also a mandate by the state of Utah. And it's also important as we look at how and why these are important, because as counties are not only the law but also the legislative bodies, that when it comes to changes in state and federal policies, it's important that we have this kind of a document in place so that as we interface with those other state and federal agencies, that they are required to also consider and put into play our resource management plans. And so that's really what the state was wanting to accomplish, was so that every county had that opportunity to stand their ground for the overreach, particularly with the federal government.
Yeah, so with it, there's 28 sections that we were supposed to identify. We've kind of categorized them and lumped them into land use, agricultural resources, mineral resources, water resources, wildlife resources, economics and society. So within those, there's some subcategories that address overall those different aspects of it. So I think Rex and Christian for putting a lot of this together. We held public open houses, public comment periods, and so that we can get as much information and feedback as we had. Christian and I reviewed it and went through and made updates and made everything kind of flow as well as possible. And so we've just had the latest draft given to us and from our consultants to have a approval, and it is something that's part of our general plan. So as we update our general plan, this is always something that will be reviewed and taken as things change within our community. If different resources become available or other things that we weren't able to foresee, we could always address those and help make sure that we protect those, or that we are able to utilize them to the best of our ability.
So Commissioners, Todd has made a recommendation. There are some sections in each of the, well, not in each of the areas, but in several of these areas that are duplicates, not only in the particular portion, but also in other places in the document. And he's proposing that some final draft of these sections, or not final draft, but recommending that these sections be eliminated as we adopt and then go forward, sending this on to the state. So I don't know if you would like, we can read those in and then be in agreement, if you've had a chance to review those, that we go ahead and take those out and then send that final document in.
I think it would be appropriate to read them in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can go from there.
You've got that list, right?
I do.
Okay.
The recommendation on the duplications were under the land use category. that policies, that we delete the policies 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, and 34. And Todd, I don't know, as we go through these, if you want to comment on those, let's go ahead and do that so that we have that out in the public.
Yeah, so I look at those, and those address our no net loss policy. So we have a policy that we would encourage private property to stay private property. We also recognize that citizens, if they so choose to sell their lands to a state or federal agency, we as a county can't stop them. But we would like to be able to see that it stay in private. That's our preference, and so those go through, and we have a policy number 12 that states our no net loss policy, and then those ones that were listed were just additional information that I think were already contained in the policy that we've adopted several years ago.
Okay. Next one is land access, delete policy 34. Any comment on that? Go ahead.
And that's the same thing. It states that we'll have a no net loss policy, so it states the same thing as what all those other ones were.
Okay. Wilderness and special designation, delete policy 22. Policy 21 already states the county is opposed to national monuments without public consensus.
Yeah, so it's just, it said the same thing as 21, but if any public land or national monuments are designated that it needs to go through a local public process, they need to take our consideration into it before anything else, that we need to have a voice, and our local citizens need to have a voice.
Next one is fire management, delete policy number 10. This is a 120-page document, so there's a lot of material in it.
Yeah, and with this one, looking at, I think there's some information in there that was cited, and it says areas having 60 to 60 conifers per acre. I don't know the exact numbers for those, but that be able to manage our lands, to be able to for watersheds so that we can protect it, but I don't know the exact numbers, and I think that's something we work with Utah State and other forestry agencies and identify the exact number that needs to be in there.
Agriculture was delete policies 7, 11, and 12.
So these ones are, with 7, it is talking about unmanned aircrafts and drones. They have to have permission from private property owners before they enter the airspace. I think that as an enforcement issue, I think there's other legislation that's going into effect, but being able to manage that, I don't know how as a county we police this at this time.
It's one of those items that would put a greater burden of responsibility on our shoulders that we wouldn't realistically be able to enforce.
And then 11 and 12, talking about opposed legislation that would elevate animals as the same status as people. There's already laws and things out there that protect that we recognize the agricultural uses, and people need to be able to do agricultural uses, and so there's laws and ordinances in effect that already protect them to allow them to do those agricultural activities as outlined. So I just think those are some things that, once again, how do we keep on top of those?
Next one is wildlife, and it was delete policy number 25.
So, got to skip a few pages here. And that one is talking about supporting the sustainable levels of wildlife, and DW already has a process that when they set their tag limits and everything else, that goes through a public process. That's DWR's responsibility, and they already do that through a public process.
And our last one is threatened, endangered, and sensitive species, delete policy number 12.
I'm impressed how fast Todd is finding these.
And This is the same thing as was earlier stated about unmanned aircrafts, is the same as in the previous policies.
So I think the only other thing I'd add is that we've had this online at carbonplan.org and again through the public process. So commissioners, having read those in, we'd take motion on what to do with those, and then also whether we're ready to make that approval so we can send this on to the state.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve and also recognize that a lot of these items were also identified through our consultants and reviewed by Todd anyway, for these last items for deletion. But I'll go ahead and make the recommendation to approve based on the deletion of these items.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Todd, will you make sure we follow up on those last deletions then, and then that we get this on into the state?
Yep.
Okay, and reposted in its correct form.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. Our next item is announcement and update on the Carbon County launch event for Governor Herbert's 25K jobs launch in rural Utah. I thought this was a perfect opportunity, commissioners, where we have a public meeting just prior to this, to talk a little bit about what this really is and why we need the community involved with it. As you'll recall, back in January in the State Address, the governor announced that he would like to have 25,000 new jobs throughout the rural counties in Utah. And so this is not a one-shot effort on their part, but this is the beginning of that process. And on August 9th, there are a number of items that are going to happen. And so we would really appreciate it either through your own social media channels, through our local media, through the resources that we have to distribute the information. But we'd like to take just a minute and tell you what this really is. And so commissioners, you're more than welcome to help me with any part of this that you would like to talk about. First of all, on August 9th at 3 p.m. Here in the Commission chambers, there'll be a press conference. And with that press conference will be several of the companies that are bringing jobs to our county. They will be here to announce what their programs are, what those jobs are that they're going to be bringing in. And so we're inviting, obviously, press. I believe that from the Salt Lake area we'll also have some people that will be accompanying the governor's office with that. But to see what not only this effort but the effort of our economic development department is bringing to our area. So again, that's Wednesday, this coming Wednesday at 3 p.m. here for a press conference. Any other comments on press conference, commissioners?
We actually have some individuals from the SBA office. Some of Linda McMahon's office, counselors, will be here to listen to that. And just to mention a few of the industries that will be making announcements during this press conference. Some of the industries will be in the IT world, in the data storage, also manufacturing, and I'm drawing a blank. But we have some call centers, and a variety of other industries that will add to the diversification of what we do here in Carbon County. So it's really exciting to have these individuals come here to our area. Over 240 potential new jobs will be announced, and that number, depending on there's still a few more players that may be adding to those numbers if they're able to make the press release at that time with their businesses.
The next thing that'll happen on the 9th will be from 5 to 7, and this will be at the USU Eastern's Jennifer Leavitt Center. This will be a job and resource fair. There's information and flyers that are being circulated on that, and this is an opportunity for, again, these companies that are coming in and also some of the people that are coming down from the state agencies to be there to talk about and to actually talk to people about how they can apply for these jobs, how they can become involved with it. And so that's being sponsored by Workforce Services, the Chamber of Commerce, our BEAR program, and also the Carbon County. So again, that's from 5 to 7 on August 9th at the Jennifer Leavitt Center up at the university. And not to this place, or not to mention what USU Eastern is doing by hosting this on their campus and bringing together all the resources that allow this to happen. The date was picked by the Lieutenant Governor. He was given the charge for the date and the time, and so we are just acting accordingly, which we are glad to have. But any comment on the job fair, resource fair, commissioners?
And just make evident that Lieutenant Governor will be at both events, the press release at 3 and also at 5 o'clock at the job fair.
Following the job fair at 7, we will then have the opportunity, well, as part of the job fair, there will also be, the Lieutenant Governor will speak. There'll be resources from his office, but also the World Trade Center, Governor's Office of Economic Development, our state business partners, local business partners, county and city officials, and the local employers that will be there along with the new ones. So this really is an opportunity for anyone that's been interested in jobs or what is coming to the area, but also for you to be able to learn, how do I start a business, or am I an entrepreneur? What are the grants? What are the things that are available potentially to help you get established in this area? And again, we welcome this, and we've been assured that this is not just a one-time opportunity that we'll see from our Salt Lake partners, but it is a great way to kick it off. So up at the university, that Jennifer Leavitt Center will be open, and there'll be all kinds of opportunities for you to participate. I guess they have some prizes that'll be given away, and we just would invite the community to come and be involved in this process. We'd like to have more than our fair share of those 25,000 jobs. So any other comments or thoughts on that and what we can do?
I think one other thing that's very important is to EDC Utah and the World Trade Center Utah have both committed to regular office hours, if you can call them office hours, in Carbon County to help provide the resources that they can offer to our businesses here, instead of you having to travel up there if you want to learn about what they have to offer and the trainings and the opportunities that they provide to grow your business. They will then bring all of those resources here for our businesses. So please, if you have a friend or if you own a business and want to grow your business, there are some business opportunities. So come meet with those folks, World Trade Center and EDC Utah, learn about what they can do for you and your business, because they have committed that they will have regular office hours here to help our businesses grow.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else?
It's just an exciting opportunity for us to show our community support. Lieutenant Governor is bringing resources down, and we want to make sure that we want to utilize those resources, so it's very exciting.
Thank you. Our next item then is discussion about roads and road closures on public land. And Harvey, we will turn some time to you.
Thank you for allowing me the time. The Castle Country OHV Association has compiled a petition. There's over 1,126 names on the petition asking that the county continue to do everything legally possible to keep the Nuck Woodward Road open. I don't know if I need to, do I need to use this?
Yeah, you'll probably pick it up, but for recording that'd be great. Thanks.
All right, so anyway, I'm presenting that to you on their behalf, but I'm more importantly, I feel, here presenting some thoughts about disabled and elderly folks that are really looking at losing the opportunity to travel into these areas, whether it's Nuck Woodward or whether it's another canyon or road. I've got a list here from the Manti La Salle National Forest that's over 150 trails and roads long. I'm going to read just a few because you'll recognize some of them. And what it says right after the trail name and number is likely not needed. Now we all know what comes after that. Something's going on. Upper Joes Valley Road, Lover Ridge Road, Lowry Water, Mary's Lake, 6 Mile, Bench Road, Reeder Ridge, Bulger Lake, George's Fork, Paven Corridor, Southeast Mountain, Stream Gauge, Fish Creek, Lower Greens, Trough Springs Ridge, Birch Spring Point, Giant Aspen. That's just a few. Now, I've been in this wheelchair for about 32 years now. Well, over 32 years. 32 years, 2 months at noon today. And ever since then, I've realized that there's some freedoms that some people have and enjoy that others don't. And every time I see others pull up to these signs that say you can't go there, road closed, perfectly good road, maintained road, or a good road that has been used, and it says no longer motorized vehicle accessed, mechanical access, mechanized access. All that sign says to me is that you're different than everybody else and you can't go there. Now, I would think that we've evolved into a people that have learned to use machines and different things, and if there's no reason for that to be eliminated, it shouldn't be eliminated. This is for everybody, but the head of what they're cutting off, what they cut off first is the handicapped, the elderly, then the ones that can't walk very far. They get rid of us. They get rid of the four-wheeler guys and the OHV guys. They're not going to stop there. And these guys that have horses and outfitter companies that think that they want to have a nice little hunting reserve, they're going to be next, because them horses aren't animals that were there naturally. It's not going to stop until everything, everybody, the hunting, everything is gone off of these mountains. And this is where it starts. The state of Utah allows handicapped, disabled, to hunt from a vehicle or a four-wheeler off of designated county or state roads that are open to the public. If all of these roads are closed, that they're talking about closing, there would be only asphalt roads left on the Manti and many other Forest Service areas throughout the United States. That means that I have no way to hunt or recreate within these public federal lands. I don't think that's right. I think that it should be open. The roads that have been there, we need to fight for. I'm not a part of a group. I'm me, and I've got a bunch of friends here. I'm glad to see that they've showed up. We've got a bunch of names on a petition that I call people that I call friends. But I just want you guys, because you're our representatives in this area, you're our best hope to keep this open. This is part of what I feel like you guys were elected to do, was to help the public maintain the things that we enjoy doing, and hunting and fishing and observing the wilderness and forests is one of them things. So I would ask that as you're making decisions on this, and that you're making decisions on what we can possibly do legally to keep these roads open, that you remember the times that I talked about pulling up to them signs and seeing that somebody else is able to go through the gate, or somebody else is able to go around the gate, or somebody else is able to walk down the road, but I'm not. Think about what that feels like when, if you're a father and you've got a handicapped child, or son or daughter, or you're a son who has a handicapped father, or maybe elderly father that's on oxygen as I do. Think about what that really feels like in your heart. Because it's not a good feeling. And I would just ask and appreciate any help that the county attorney, the commission, anybody could do to help keep these roads open. The Snuck Woodward Road is, there's a lot behind that. There's a lot. The more I find out about it, the more it's questionable why this all came to be. But maybe it'll be good, and I would just ask for you to consider our side of the story when you're dealing with them. So anyway, that's my presentation, and I appreciate anything, and if there's any questions or anything I can do to help, I would enjoy doing that.
Have you also provided the Forest Service with this document?
I don't think they have yet.
Okay.
No, but they have other copies, yes.
Because we would want to make sure that that's there. I know that, you know, over the last few years, it's been a continual fight. I mean, the roads that you read off the list from, I think those were designated back that way clear in 15, that many years ago. Mm-hmm. And if the numbers are right that we were provided, I think it's 1,600 miles of roads or more that are there. So I think as a commission chair at this point in time, we very much hear what you're saying and continue to fight the RS 2477 fight and the access to public lands. So it's very timely, because this one came out of the blue. We thought it was taken care of in the last negotiations, and obviously that wasn't the case. And maybe Commissioner Hopes would like to give an update on what the county has done with Snuck Woodward Road and why those things are important, because you've been involved with that.
So a couple years ago, because of the fires, the Sealy fire, the road kept getting tons and tons of damage done to it because of all the flooding. Every time it had rained, large amounts of sediment and rocks and debris would come over the road. So they did some closures for a time, and then the Forest Service came and told us that there was a potential of closing that road and leaving the road prism, basically letting it just sit and closing the road. And we had a discussion, and we, as a county, Mayor Powell and a few others went, and we went to the site. We were able to actually drive up all the way to, not quite to the top, probably about halfway, and the only thing that stopped us was that the Forest Service had taken a culvert out and hadn't replaced it yet, and so we couldn't get past that point. At that time, we had a discussion about Carbon County taking over the maintenance of the road, of which we did. We went in that year, we improved a couple things, and basically took over the maintenance of the road. So we have an interest in that road. We've put some money on it. This year, however, there was a slough on the edge of one of the steep embankments. We went in again and did some road work. They allowed us, the Forest Service allowed us to make a couple other improvements all the way up through the canyon to protect where the stream bed came close to the roads. We rip-wrapped some of those areas and made some improvements to the road. And so we have every intention of that being a road. I don't think we want it closed. What's happening now and was they came and told us that there will be a seasonal closure. This was a decision by the Forest Service that they can do. They can do a seasonal closure. And they informed us that they were going to try this and see how it went. And that's where it was put. So I'm glad that you're here because, and I had this conversation just today. I says, of all the people that have called and contacted me and emailed me, every one of them has been in favor of keeping that road open. And not one person has called me and said, please keep the seasonal closure or close the road altogether. Now, I'll tell you, we have had 5 phone calls since I had that meeting from people that want that road closed, but I know where that came from. You can just imagine that there was a phone call made and said, hey, you need to talk to the commissioners.
Right.
But the people that are interested are in this room today and on the petition. So
Well,
I think we hear you.
The more we look at it, the more we don't see the reason that it should be seasonally closed. And the more I see from behind the scenes, and I don't have a lot of evidence, but there's some personal stuff going on here that would benefit a very, very few for that road to be seasonally closed. Mm-hmm. And that's quite possibly has to do with some hunters. But I got news for you, the hunters that are doing something like this or pushing for something like this. You're next.
Yep.
It's not just the cars and the trucks. It's going to be the hunters eventually if we don't stand up for what is ours. And I don't understand the Forest Service being able to close a road that the county maintains and all that stuff. You know, I don't understand the legalities of that. But I would just ask that if there is any possible way and any push to keep that road open as well as others, that's what I and many people are asking.
Know that I'm on your side with that, and that the group here is obvious a part of what that is. I would encourage you to continue to look for ways to spread that same influence throughout the local, not only the local jurisdictions, but also on and up through the state and federal. Because yes, as commissioners, we do have a voice and we know where we're headed, but we also know that it is the people by large that have that opportunity and responsibility.
And that's why I was hoping that we need numbers, right. And we have, but 1,100 people, that's a pretty good percentage of.
Thank you for presenting that.
Commissioner, one more thing. As far as recreationalists, if you don't think what Mr. Howard is saying is true, go up into the Hyuenas. The Hyuenas was developed by horseback. And each and every year, as we take Boy Scouts in, the regulations for horses continues to change and get more cumbersome each time we go. Used to be you could take a group of any size, and then it's to 14 horses and only 14 people and less horses, and the regulations, and it's because different recreationalists don't want to deal with other recreationalists. The hikers don't want to step over road apples as they walk up the trail, but that's part of life. We just have to learn to deal with each other and be able to recreate together.
Commissioner Potter, would I make a comment?
Please.
I'd just like to recognize that this is a public meeting, not a hearing, and that Harvey Howard is the individual on the agenda to speak. But I would also at the same time like to recognize that we have several veterans here in the room. And myself being a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and of the American Legion, I would like to add input, if I might, from those individuals who have expressed 100% in the same realm as Harvey, that these roads should be made public to those who otherwise may not be able to access them in any other means than through motorized access. And with my prior conversations with Commissioner Hope, since I'm over the public lands and he's over the roads, we have had several conversations about keeping our public lands access open. And those are typically done through the roads, through paved roads, and through roads that are maintained. And since we have taken on this Nuck-Woodard Road and provided maintenance to it, we have invested in this road. And I would like to see the Commission at a future date, because it's not on the agenda, but actually have a formal resolution in opposition to unwarranted closures, which this is what this is. It's an unwarranted closure by the Forest Service. They have perhaps proposed reasons, but as Harvey has mentioned, it benefits less than 1% of our population. Those reasons, and I view that as being an unjustified and unwarranted reason. And that's just, based on the community, based on these signatures and proposed interests of the individuals who would like to have continued and maintained access to the Nuck-Woodard Road. And in conversations with our county planner, Todd Thorne, this road is a crucial access to Emery County. If for some reason we lost access through the highway, we wouldn't need another form to travel back and forth, and that this road provides that. So even a temporary closure, if we were in a state of emergency, could provide for unopportune instances. Anyway, it could provide for disaster. And so if we might, at a future date, Chairman, my recommendation would be that we put this on the agenda for a formal resolution, just in opposition, even though legally that doesn't do anything other than state to the Forest Service as representatives of the voting citizens in Carbon County that we are not in favor of its closure.
Perfect. I do acknowledge that there are other hands, but this is not a public debate, so if there are items that you'd like to put on the agenda in the future, we'd be happy to do that. And thank you, Harvey, for doing that, for bringing the information to us.
I appreciate your time, and just ask for any help that you can give us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item then is consideration and possible authorization of filing a formal protest to the Forest Service with respect to the proposed closure on the Nuck-Woodard Road. So we would just need a motion to do that. We would bring that back as a resolution, as you're suggesting, Commissioner Meller, and have a discussion at that point in time.
I so move.
Have a motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Our next item is consideration and possible approval of a request for the FAA approval of agreement for transfer of entitlements. And I don't know, Jeremy, if you had things that you want to bring up with that. I can discuss this at this point while you're filling in, or what you would like to recommend on that.
Commissioner, I just didn't have much background on that, so I just wasn't sure why
Okay.
it was being transferred.
What this is we have a request from the FAA in regards to the airport improvement program. Every year there is a amount of funds that are given to the Carbon County Airport. It's a lot of the ways that we absolutely fund the projects that have taken place out there over the years. At the present time, we have some excess funds that have not been used, dating back into the years 15, 16, and even into 17. And so the FAA, and I've seen this before, have asked if Carbon County would give those subsidies aside in the amount of $150,000 to the Blanding Municipal Airport. And so what this does is this allows them to take those monies, which would be earmarked, if you want to call it that, for the Carbon County Airport. And the ones in 2015, which the amount is just the $5,186, those would be lost this year if they were not used. So as I talked with our consulting firm and gone over the numbers, basically they said that this would be a good thing. It would help a neighboring airport, and that it would not be any detriment to us, because those funds come available on an annual basis. So this is just a simple agreement asking us to transfer those amounts in a total of $5,187 from the year 2015, $104,397 from 2016, and $40,416 from 2017. So we just need a motion to go ahead and do that. Again, these are FAA federal monies that would be being dealt with.
Commissioner Potter, as I've reviewed the documents in our packet and with your explanation, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve.
Have a motion?
Does this affect any of our opportunities in the future for funding?
It really does not, because those monies continue to come. We've actually been the recipient of other counties doing the same thing, or other airports doing the same thing for us. And so it's a great way to roll those monies, make sure that they get utilized. And so it's a good partnership for the way that the FAA and the state helps manage those funds that are available to us.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Our next item was review and possible approval of the minimum standards for the Carbon County Airport. And Commissioners, I'd like to have you consider tabling this. There are a number of things that we need to go ahead and make some minor adjustments to in regards to airport managers and airport FBO services. I'd like to make sure that the document is right and that we don't create any kind of a liability for our FBO and for the county itself. And a few requests that we really should look at first. So if you would allow us to work on those things and bring them back in the next commission meeting, that would be my recommendation.
Motion to table and bring back. Do you know which meeting you'd like it to be seen in?
If it's not the next one, we ought to do it probably the first one in September.
Okay.
But let's see how far we can get working with the FBO and with Christian and with Javation and cleaning up those few things. We're really close, but that way we could send a good copy to the FAA and then have that as part of our standards.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table until final draft is approved and ready.
Have a motion?
Before I second that, I wonder if we might be able to discuss a little bit of our intent with the FBO since they're here in the room.
They're the next item, Commissioner.
Oh, very good. I apologize. I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Our next item is review and possible approval of our fixed base operator, our FBO agreement with Red Tail Aviation for the Carbon County Airport. And John, I'm wondering if you would take a few minutes and come up, introduce yourself as a relatively new owner, and tell us a little bit about you, your company, and as he's doing that, we sent out a request for proposals. Red Tail was the company that sent in their, not application, but their desire to continue being the FBO. As a matter of fact, John is really a new company, and I'll let you talk about what is going on with you and why airports and airplanes are so important with you, and then we can talk a little bit about the agreement itself.
Well, I'd be happy to, Commissioner. Red Tail has been around for about 40 years in different forms and locations. The group I'm involved with acquired the ownership in about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and really with the intent of elevating what we do. And we've spent the last year and a half really investing in the Moab fixed base operation that we operate. We basically doubled the employees we have there. We greet every airplane that arrives, whether it's a big one or a small one, and really have upped the service level, I think, significantly. I'm a pilot, so I've seen a lot of FBOs, and I had certainly ranked Moab's as one of the worst a couple of years ago. So I think we've come a long way, and we're really looking forward to investing in Carbon County Airport. The airport's really a portal for companies that come into the community, and we want to present Carbon County, Price in a very good light, and I think we can do that a lot better than it's been done in the past, and so we're looking forward to doing that. We are really focused on the fixed base operation part of our business. We do air tours in Moab, but that's really not, that's a tangent as far as I'm concerned to the business. It's been there for a while, but we're going to move one of our really good mechanics up here. He has been after me for a year to get this resolved, so he would love to live in Price. So that's a wonderful opportunity for both of us, because he's a really good mechanic, and we'll probably initially have him have an intern that works with him, and then we'll see how it develops. But and we'll move some of our from our Red Tails requirements, some of our heavier maintenance up here, engine changes and so forth, that take a while, and then we'll also, of course, solicit outside maintenance as well from a regional area. Good maintenance for aircraft is sometimes hard to find, so pilots are willing to travel to get to good maintenance. I think we'll be able to offer that and get them a ride back to their home and bring them back when their airplane's ready. So those are just a few of the things we plan to do, and obviously have courtesy cars available for transient pilots, and just really we want our FBO operations to be in the top 10% of any FBO in the country in terms of service level, and I think we can do it. It's not rocket science. You just have to apply people and good common sense, and we're in the service business, so we look forward to it and really appreciate the efforts you folks have made to get this together.
Well, we're glad to have you here, John, and really do appreciate your efforts in helping to put this together. The thing that I would like to also add to what you said is not only the mechanical service, but an airplane that'll be available for rent,
yes,
hire, and also the ability to do a flight school. We would love, as you would, to be more than just a fuel stop, and hats off to your staff with Jennifer and Angie and others that are working there. That
well, thanks.
It has really come up.
Price has a wonderful airport. I mean, it's one of the best in the state that I've seen, and we just need to take advantage of it.
Great. Well, thank you for that
yes,
introduction, John.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
Same here. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioners, I'm sure you've seen the agreement that has gone out. It talks about the oversight fees, the fuel flowage fees, the rental of hangars. The rental of our county-owned hangars, and the services in general that an FBO does provide, and especially some of the additional things that Red Tail has agreed that they would like to provide. Part of it goes on beyond what the agreement really is, and that's why in that last item that I wanted to make sure that our minimum standards are just tweaked just a little bit, so that we make sure that both sides of this is in a good agreement. But in talking with Christian prior to this, he felt good about the agreement. I talked with John. He also had that same feeling. We may need to add an addendum there as we tweak the airport manager versus FBO language, but those would be very minor. This contract would be effective as of August 1st, and so at that point in time, unless you have other questions or comments, we'd be ready for a motion.
If I can add a comment. This is a contract that, yes, is more money than our previous contract in a way. But at the same time, this is an investment in our community through partnering with an FBO that could perhaps increase other revenues that we do receive here in the county, and increase economic development, increase partnerships that we have with other local people in the community, such as the university. And so amongst the partners here in the community, we're looking forward to an overall improvement, a bigger bang for our buck in the amount that we are giving that could be viewed as an increase, even during a diminishing budget that we're currently in. And so this decision perhaps is not one that is made lightly, but it is made with a lot of hope and a lot of expectations. And so with that comment, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Look forward to working with you over the next few weeks and taking care of those items. Thank you, John and Jennifer. Our next item is a wildfire update by the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. And I don't see Jeremy here.
Can I make a little update? I was at
Please.
the event held last night with all the police officers, sheriff's deputies, and those individuals, and Jeremy was also there. He commented briefly, and he apologized for not reaching out to us with a phone call prior, but there was a fire up the 9 Mile area, about 7 or 8 acres or so, that they had some individuals from Provo and others come in, and they put it out really fast. And so fire season, typically they're on more of a high alert status in the sense of no fires unless it's in a designated spot and all that until October 1st. Anyway, he just gave me a brief update last night, and figured I'd share that since he's not here in person.
What we'll do is, I appreciate that, Commissioner, and what we'll do is we'll just take that off the agenda, and if he gets through the season or has the ability to contact us and get back on, we'd certainly love to hear from him. Our next item is a review and possible approval of amendment, number 1 to the contract of Utah Department of Corrections for housing state inmates. Sheriff?
So this is just an amendment to the contract that we already have. Our main concern, and we had Christian review it, our main concern was the PREA requirements that come along with a lot of the prison stuff. We reached out to James Chip, and we were told that does not, it doesn't bind us to that at all. So we really don't have any intention of housing state inmates right now, just because of the challenges that our jail faces and the population that's in there right now. But this would leave it open so we could, if we ever wanted to, we could, or if they ever had a need for a special inmate to be housed somewhere, we could take that inmate in. So I see no issue with the amendment, and I don't know if Jeremy knows about it, but I think it's okay.
Do we need to strike that part of it that you're referring to out of this then, or just simply accept it because we're okay?
Yeah, I think we can accept it because we're okay.
And I've reviewed that, commissioners. I don't have any concerns with the agreement.
Okay. Yeah, we've kept that door open in case we needed that opportunity to take state prisoners, but that in itself is a whole nother discussion and a whole nother bag of worms. So we'll keep the contract open, but not that I'm hoping for your jail to be full, but we'll let you manage that.
We'll make a motion to approve Amendment 1 to the contract with Utah Department of Corrections.
Have a motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Take a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate your input.
Chairperson.